I spent years living on autopilot, never bothering to ask why I believed in what I believed. I'd think, it just is, and then move on with the rest of my day. But after 2 years of daily meditation, which we'll be talking about in the next video, I came to this truly life-changing realization that I should have come to well before. Most of the thoughts, habits, and beliefs that drive us aren't actually ours. In many cases, they get passed down from parents, teachers, from society at large, from the culture, from the media, from your celebrities you look up to, from your favorite authors, your favorite YouTubers, whoever. And we accept these thoughts and begin to believe them as our own, despite the fact that they were embedded in our minds from somebody else. And these thoughts and beliefs become the scripts that end up running our lives. We attach our identity to certain beliefs and certain thoughts, and our whole worldview becomes constructed based on information that has been pushed into our minds, instead of our identity and worldview being shaped based on what we have authentically thought of on our own. And this is, to me, a major issue in today's society, especially more so now than ever before, with content and media being everywhere, at the tip of your fingers, 24/7. So in this video, I'll be discussing how to reprogram your brain for original and deep thinking, and I'll explain why it's one of the most important things you can do in 2025 and beyond. Let's begin. Your brain is a top-notch script follower. It takes in information, it assesses it, analyzes it, and puts what you see in a mental library within your mind, so that moving forward when you take action, you can behave in a way that is in alignment with what you have seen in your life. It is a copier. Your brain is like a photocopy machine. It sees things, and if that action or belief is reinforced by some external force, then in the back of your mind, unconsciously, your brain is saying, okay, well, that is something that we should repeat moving forward in our own life. That is an action I should take. That is a thought I should adopt, because when so-and-so person said that thought, it was received with positive feedback. And the list of things goes on and on and on about how your brain takes in information, makes sense of it, and then makes it so that you copy that behavior moving forward. As I mentioned, this happens from the time you're a baby until the day you die, but this is especially prominent when you're a little kid. I'm talking from birth till about 10 or 12 years old. That's because little kids' brains have what's called more neuroplasticity. They're neuroflexible. I'm not a neuroscientist, but what I'm getting at here is that their brains are malleable. They can learn so much quicker and understand things in a way that adults simply cannot. And when you're young, you don't have this mature level of thinking, because your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain in the front here, that part of the brain has not developed. So you can't think critically and discern whether or not a certain set of beliefs or what this person said or a certain set of actions are actually beneficial and constructive to follow on your own. You assume that everything you see is for good or for bad, and then you act that out moving forward. And as impressionable little kids, we're around many authority figures a lot. Our parents, our wider family, church, school. Think social media, the fact that young kids are being exposed to random strangers on the internet at a very young age. Whereas with me, I was a teenager when this began. Now we have 3 and 4-year-olds scrolling TikTok with no understanding of the repercussions of this, but they're doing it anyways because they're kids, they want to learn. Anyways, that was a bit of a side tangent, but what I'm getting at is this. Every input shapes your brain so much that you start believing it fully. And not only believing, but living those beliefs out. You adopt that identity and change your actions to fit said identity. And there are so many layers to this. We can keep going down the rabbit hole and find explanations as to why we model behaviors we see, but your time is limited and so is mine, so we can do that in another video. Here's a great example of little kids observing something and then acting out that behavior in their own life. In 1961, there was a psychologist named Albert Bandura, and he wanted to understand how people learn socially, so he created what's called the Bobo doll experiment, where a bunch of adults would walk into this room where there was this giant inflatable doll, and these adults would punch the doll, they'd kick it, they'd pick it up, slam it on the ground, they would hit it with different objects and just walk away. Albert Bandura, the psychologist, recorded all of these interactions the people had with the doll, and then he showed these exact videos to little kids. He would show them the video, and then afterwards he'd put them in a room with the doll, and all of the kids would act out the same behavior that the adults did on the doll. They would punch the doll, they'd kick the doll, they'd spit on it, they'd slam it, they'd hit it with these different objects. You get the point. Because these kids saw what other people were doing to the doll, and they said, hey, I'm going to do the same, because that must be something that I need to do to this doll. From there, that created the term social learning theory. Now, this isn't anything new. Humans are hardwired for survival. So when we see other people, especially authority figures who are adults or people who we look up to, doing a certain set of actions, we unconsciously attribute those actions with being beneficial because they're linked to our survival. So while in this experiment, this was an inflatable doll, the inflatable doll was no aggressor in any way, shape, or form to the adults or the kids, but the kids saw the behavior and figured, hey, I should model this behavior. I should act out this behavior on my own accord in my own life because this person is doing it, so it must mean something important. The thing is, these days, our survival needs are met. If you're watching this video, then you likely have a roof above your head, you have clothing on your back, you have food, water, and all the basic needs to survive. You can walk down the street and there are no saber-toothed tigers, there are no grizzly bears or dinosaurs that could come and attack you. That is because the world we live in is very advanced comparatively to what it was before. Now, as I mentioned, this conformist thinking that is social learning theory is important for survival, but since our survival needs are met, and since we don't have many predators lurking around us that can threaten our survival, there are many drawbacks to this conformist thinking. There are downsides to assuming the actions and the thoughts and the beliefs of other people are beneficial. But awareness is the first step to understanding how you can create change in how you think and how you act moving forward. Let's talk about that. About 12 months ago, I decided to really change the way I lived. This was because after coming to the realization that most people don't think originally and most people don't think with great depth, I came to terms with the fact that if I wanted to be an original and deep thinker, I needed to live differently from other people. So I stopped scrolling social media. I stopped going out to bars and drinking. I stopped staying up late watching TV. All these things that most people do, I stopped doing. Of course, this is the extreme approach to changing how you think. You don't necessarily need to do this. But at that time, I thought it was the best prescription for my problem, for my pain. And I'm glad I made those changes, because now the way I perceive the world is quite differently than how I did before. In doing these things to become an original thinker, you are essentially stepping away from the known and entering the unknown, the fog. And that's chaotic, because when you step away from what's known and you begin to embark into unfamiliar territory, you don't know what the hell you're going to see. You don't know what the hell you're going to experience. And as a result, this can lead to anxiety and uncertainty, which, again, we can talk about in another video. But in short, your neurons begin to freak out because they've been conditioned to live in the same familiar way. They've been conditioned to think in the same familiar way for years. So when you suddenly make that shift, that change, even if it's not as extreme as what I took, your body freaks out because it's unfamiliar. You'll feel so restless, anxious, and maybe even, as I said, isolated, because the way you think and perceive the world is so different from other people that you'll begin to want to fall back into your old ways out of comfort, out of convenience, out of fear of becoming so far off from other people that you'll no longer be accepted socially. And because you're thinking with such depth and you're perceiving the world in a unique way that many other people don't understand or can't even conceptualize, there might come a time where other people look at you like, hey, this guy or this girl is batshit crazy. Here's a great quote I love that sums up all of this. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. Now, of course, there's utility in being a tribal creature. Humans are meant to connect. We need others to thrive and survive. I'm not saying anything against that at all. However, when you seek out ways to think deeply and perceive the world in different ways from other people, you will have to make the sacrifice of thinking differently from the tribe. The collective beliefs may no longer serve you or align with what it is you're trying to do. And most people, they give up here. They think, okay, well, I don't like the fact that I'm not doing XYZ habits, or I don't like the fact that my friends are out doing this and I'm choosing not to because I'm learning this material, or whatever the case may be. So you fall back into your ways, and then you end up in the same loop, the same cycle, the same pattern, and you never really change. Your level of thinking never deepens to the degree which it could have had you continued to push forward with what it is you were learning or trying to do. Some common ingrained beliefs that people have, which are instilled in them from a very young age, include: you can't earn a living without college or trade school. Success equals hustling and being busy 24/7. Balance is for people who aren't ambitious. These are some of the deeply ingrained beliefs that I had taught to me from a very young age, and they continue to essentially run the script of my life for many years. And it was only after, as I mentioned before, sitting in meditation and journaling and really reflecting on my beliefs that I thought were truly mine and determining whether or not they served me, did I decide to make those changes. So it's super important when in meditation, when laying down in bed at night, when journaling, you ask yourself things like, wait, is that even true? Who told me that? Where's the proof? Most people don't assess these deeply held beliefs. They just assume that they're their beliefs and that they came to those beliefs on their own accord. When in reality, as I mentioned before, most thoughts, beliefs, and actions have been instilled in you from a very young age and on an ongoing daily basis for years. And people aren't even aware of this. They just live on autopilot never reflecting and assessing whether or not those deeply held beliefs are serving them or not. You can't upgrade your life if the mental scripts which are dictating your thoughts, beliefs, and actions are outdated. It's impossible. You must see, understand, audit, and reshape those internal beliefs so that in doing so, you can adopt a new identity and take different actions that serve this new identity. Because ultimately, our depth of thought and understanding of our conscious mind and unconscious mind dictates our reality. And this is why becoming an original thinker is so crucial in 2025 and beyond. Here are 3 things you can do to upgrade those mental scripts and become a truly deep and original thinker. Number 1 is notice your shoulds. Your shoulds are these quick and occurring thoughts that come to mind when you are about to do something that aligns with who you are, aligns with what you want, aligns with what it is you're trying to do. But then this thought, this should, comes out of nowhere, and you think, oh, well, I should go do this for this person, or I should do this first, or I should maybe avoid doing this for reasons that don't necessarily serve you, but serve the old version of you. A great example of this happened to me about 2 years ago. So it was my buddy's birthday, and we all got together to eat. We had a few drinks, laughed, we joked, we talked, had a great time. Then afterwards, I'm getting ready to go home, but one of my other friends was like, hey, well, let's all come over to my place. We can smoke, we can drink some more, watch a movie, have a good time. I love my friends. They're great guys, but I had work the next day. And I knew deep down that, hey, I've already had a massive meal. I've already had 2 alcoholic drinks. I should go home, get some water in me, and get 8 to 9 hours of good sleep before I go to work. That would have been the responsible thing to do. That's what I wanted to do. But in my mind, I'm thinking, well, it's my buddy's birthday. I really should go by, really should do it. And that's what I did. I was more timid to explore that sense of myself, to explore that authentic version of who I was. And as a result, I did many things that I didn't want to do. That's what you got to figure out for yourself. Every time you're doing something and something comes up for an opportunity to do something you don't want to do, or you begin thinking, hey, well, I should do this, you need to reconsider. Will doing this serve my highest good? Will doing this lead me to think and act in an authentic and original way? Or will it harm me? That's for you to decide. Step number 2 to becoming a deep and original thinker is naming the source. As I mentioned before, it's so important to reflect and assess those deeply ingrained thoughts to determine if those deeply held beliefs and thoughts are actually serving you. In doing so, what's really worked for me, and I'm confident will work for you, is if you determine where you got that thought from, where or how that belief was instilled. From there, you can name that. So let's say your mother or father instilled this limiting belief in you that money is hard to come by because you lived in poverty your entire life. So now in your 20s or 30s or 40s or however old you are, you still think money is hard to come by. And as a result, you have been financially unstable for all of your adult life. In reflection, whether this is in journaling or your meditation, name the source. Name that limiting belief or thought that has put you in this constricted situation for all these years. Once you name it, once you identify it, then you can just let it go. Say, hey, this belief was instilled onto me. This belief is not authentic to me. And from there, it's much simpler to adopt newer thoughts and beliefs because you can think originally on your own. Step number 3 is simply an extension of number 2, and that is intentionally reframe and replace. So all those thoughts and beliefs that you acknowledge aren't yours, you take them and you find ways to reframe them in a way that actually serves you. Let's say you have a limiting belief about losing weight and you're thinking, well, everybody in my family is big, or my genetics don't help me lose weight. You could reframe that to think, my genetics have helped me become a disciplined person so I can be more regimented with my diet and more regimented in the gym, helping me lose more weight. Find the positive in every negative. Once you can find the positive from every negative thought, you can easily reframe and reshape them to serve your greater good. Once you can reshape the way you think, you can reshape your identity. When you reshape your identity, your actions naturally fall into place in a way that serves that identity. And from there, the world around you that you're living in changes drastically. It all starts up here. That's why, as I said in the last video, I'm so passionate about this stuff, because if you don't change the way you think and perceive the world, then your world doesn't change. Quite simple. Becoming an original thinker who explores depth, not only in their own psychology, but depth of ideas that others would glance over because they don't want to take the time to understand them. You become somebody who, in many aspects of life, has the advantage because you perceive the world differently. You can connect the dots with ideas that other people wouldn't even see in the first place. You can have deep empathy for others' perspectives because you have that degree of thinking. You can see these subtle nuances in different perspectives because with your own thinking, with this depth of originality in your authentic thought, you don't take one side or the other when there's an argument taking place. And this, to me, is a superpower. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. Down below, I have a link to my email list. I have a link to the 3-day creativity challenge and the 7-day reset your brain focus challenge. If those are things you're interested in, feel free to sign up. No cost at all. You'll even be on my email list and you can see the ideas that I'm writing about well before they become videos like this. Anyways, I'll end it there. You have a great day.